Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Around the Ropes YouTube exclusive. Now, guys, you guys know we've had this this fascination with having ring announcers on. Obviously, we've had on our very own Ryan Peterson. We've had on Shane Fair, Rich Reed, and making his return for the first time since the early 1900s, it seems like.
Oh, my God. Why? Why would you say something like that?
I got to have some fun with this.
Listen, I may be old, but I'm not that old, okay? I'm not Shane Fair old, all right? And I love Shane, by the way. Shane, I hope you get better very soon, my man. I miss you, and I love you, brother. So I hope you're back on your feet very soon.
The one, the only Mike Falvo. Mike, how you doing?
I'm the only person that can like publicly disparage somebody and then be like, yeah, I hope you feel better soon, my friend. But no, in all honesty, I love Shane. Shane's a great guy. And you know, I saw his social media posts over the weekend, and I really sincerely hope he's back on his feet soon. He's a fantastic announcer, an even better person. So Shane, if you're watching, if you do see this later, I love you, my man.
Absolutely. I back that up. Back that statement up 100% as well. But yeah, it's been a while since you've been on with us.
It has been a while, my man. And by the way, I got to tell you, you look fantastic. By the way, I've been following you and your weight loss journey, your fitness journey, my man. Congratulations to you. I'm super proud of you. I'm super happy for you. You look great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's as you cough your lungs out when I'm giving you a compliment. I see how it is.
But no, I appreciate that. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of determination, but I'm making it work one way, shape, or form.
And you're doing it, my man. And I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. But since we last had you on, which I will not say was pre-1900s, but
I had a lot less gray in my chin. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I had a lot more fat around my stomach as well.
You said it, not me. I'm just throwing that out there.
I'll be the first one to say it. But what have you been up to though since you last were on with us?
Oh man, it's been a whirlwind, really. I mean, anybody that's followed me on Facebook or Instagram, they followed my journey as a ring announcer, cage announcer, sports announcer, what have you. I mean, aside from announcing at UAlbany and announcing for the Albany Patroons, I mean, I've been everywhere, and again, it's just been a real whirlwind, and it's great for me. It's fantastic. It's a great experience. But at the same time, it's very tiring. So I've been tired. I've been tired. Truth be told.
Oh no, I believe me. I get that, especially with the amount of announcing you do. I feel like every time I go to Facebook, I feel like, I just keep seeing you're at MVP Arena. You're here. I'm like, does this dude never sleep or something?
I do, not much, but I do.
And I get that. I'm noticing it now with the podcast starting to become something, that the long hours sitting at the front of a computer become not a weekly thing, more of a daily thing.
Right. But, it's a lot of work. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. I mean, for those of you that do not know, I'm a producer by trade. I'm a news producer by trade. When I was in the Air Force, that's what I did. I was a news producer. I was, now they call them content creators, but I made I made commercials. I made radio and television commercials. I made radio and television news stories. I mean, I myself am an Air Force level award winner for, news creation, creating news stories. And, I don't know, they call it content creation now. So trust me, I understand the grind, man, but you're doing a great job with it. And I'm very happy to see where the podcast is, from where it started to where it is now.
And I appreciate that again, as I'm coughing my head off once again.
It's all right. It's all right, man. Just let it out. Just let it go.
But, you talking about, that you do the cage stuff, you do the wrestling stuff. Do you take a different approach if, let's say, you're walking into a cage for the cage war stuff compared to if you're walking into like an immortal ring, or if you're going to like baseball field? Is there a difference in your approach with the three?
There definitely is. There are different nuances to every sport. There's different nuances to everything you announce. Like, for example, I'm not going to go to a baseball game and announce it like a professional wrestling match. I'm not going to sit there and say, coming down the aisle, weighing so ever many pounds from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or whatever. It's not like that. So, you would announce a baseball game different from a basketball game. I mean, obviously the rules are different. So you have to know the rules of what's going on within the sport, but also you have to know the nuances of every sport. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give young announcers whenever they ask me, they say, what's the best way to to practice or to do this? And I tell them, first thing you can do is practice at home. Wrestlers hear it all the time. Practice your promos when you're driving in the car, when you're at home alone. I do the same thing here at my house. But also look into announcing different sports, because for different reasons. Number one, it's reps on a microphone. It's practice. It gives you the ability to develop your voice, to develop your style, to develop your sound. Number two, it's a little extra money in your pocket. Let's say if you want to focus strictly on professional wrestling ring announcing, and you may not have as many bookings as you want, you can always sit back and say, well, you know what? I've got 2 basketball games this weekend I've got to fall back on. There's a little extra money for you right there. But the most important thing is it's practice. And when you learn the different nuances of everything that you announce, you can combine them into one solid style, and that is your style, whatever style that may be.
Now, obviously you do a lot of stuff, at the MVP arena, which I've actually had the ability to go to now twice, I think. Yeah, twice. In my I've said this for a while now. The Albany area, more precisely, has become my home away from home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm up there now, God, with all the independent wrestling I go to in the Albany, Schenectady, Troy area, even going all the way out as far as Oneida. God, I'm probably up in that area 8-9 times a year now.
It's not bad.
And I'm making the trip from Long Island.
And that's what, 3-4 hours for you, isn't it? 2.5, 3 hours, something like that.
Well, I usually try to leave after rush hour.
Smart move.
It's not that bad. And then when I'm coming back home, a lot of times I've noticed, because I'm coming back home at like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, there's not much traffic.
No.
Except the funny thing I will say, though, being on the road at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, there are some stories. One of them I can tell quickly because it's actually kind of a funny one. It happened actually when Immortal when Immortal made it to Utica last year. I went with Ryan, because Ryan was the ring announcer. And do you remember the night? This was back in August. That night where we had that weird monsoon storm. Ryan and I were driving home from Utica down to Long Island as the storm was coming down to Long Island.
Ooh.
And I have a small car, and I started to realize that night my car cannot handle severe weather. So we're on the thruway. Now, mind you, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't see 3 feet in front of me. It was bad. So Ryan had taken a nap. So I said, okay, we'll wake him up when we get further down.
What a bum. It's monsooning out, and dude's like, nah, I'm going to take a snoozer, bro. It's on you.
Well, the funny thing is, he finally wakes up after it starts to really pick up. Because when he had taken the nap was when it started, so it wasn't that bad. So all of a sudden he wakes up and he goes, what? And mind you, it's coming down to the point we're going over, I think it must have been the Whitestone Bridge, one of the bridges. I think I went as fast as 5 miles an hour.
Oh, man. That's nuts.
I couldn't go faster.
I don't blame you.
We get down to the Cross Island. Now, folks who are watching this who are sitting there going, what the hell is the Cross Island? That's one of the biggest highways in the Queens into Long Island area. We actually had to pull over under one of the overpasses because it was that bad. So all of a sudden, we're sitting there for a second, and what do I hear come up behind us? Whoop, whoop. I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. I shut up. I was like, in my head, I'm like, okay, I got a ring announcer in the car. Let him talk.
How did that work out for you?
they basically came to us. They're like, we want to make sure you're okay. So we went up a little bit further up, and I looked at Ryan. I go, Ryan, I've never asked anybody to do this, especially this is the car I have. I bought this car. I go, can you take over driving, please? So we pull into a divider, and not into an actual divider, because that would not be good.
No,
but like, where if like you're getting off the highway and the highway continues, like that separation part.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we're sitting there, and I go to Ryan, let's switch seats. So in the middle of a downpouring rain, me and Ryan decided to play Chinese firemen.
Oh man.
And he finally now normally when I come home from upstate New York, especially like the Utica area, show ends usually about 11, out of about 11:30, because it's like a Jewish goodbye. You have to say goodbye to everybody. It takes 20 minutes to say goodbye to everybody.
That's an Italian goodbye for me.
And normally I'm back home 3:00 in the morning. I don't think I finally got back home to Long Island because I'm all the way out in Stony Brook, so I'm past Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 5:00 in the morning.
That's nuts. That's insane, dude.
But you know what's funny?
What's
I would
that?
do it again in a heartbeat.
It's funny for me because there have been many times when I've done shows, like for example, I did a show in Philly and ended up having to sleep in the Philly bus station because of a snafu at the hotel. But you know what? It's part of the journey. It's another story to tell. You know what I mean?
But the funny thing is, people have looked at me. They're like, you make the trip all the way up to that area to go to shows. I said, absolutely. I said the fact that our show, and you're going to laugh, our show is mainly Long Island because, that's where me and when Ryan was part of the show for a bit, we're from Long Island. Our presence is more felt in upstate New York than it is on Long Island. Because I get the stats and everything through, what people watch.
Sure.
And I'm seeing Albany, Schenectady, Troy. Like, I'm like, we're not anywhere near there, but our presence is up there.
Yep.
And here's a funny thing I just want to get into quickly. Do you remember the first time you and I actually met in person?
It was a Hall of Fame show a couple of years ago, wasn't it? The one in Watervliet. Yeah,
the Desmond Hotel.
That's right. It was Hall of Fame weekend.
And the announcement was just made of this year's Hall of Fame.
Yes, it was. Big news. Big news. The Hall of Fame, we're moving it to October 13th. There was some discussion because the last couple of years we have been doing it in August, but we ran into some stiff competition with the Travers Stakes, which takes place up in Saratoga. For those of you not familiar with horse racing, the Travers is one of the biggest horse races in the world. I think it's one of the Triple Crown races, actually. I think it's the Kentucky Derby, the Travers, and the Belmont, if I'm not mistaken. Is it the Preakness? That's why I don't pay attention to horse racing. That's why I don't bet on horses, because I don't even know what the races are. Yeah. But anyway, but we ran into a lot of competition. A lot of folks were going up to the track, and, it's the summer in the capital region. Everybody goes to the track on the weekends. So, it was just really tough. But also, you have folks are going on trips over the summer. So we moved it to October just to give folks a little bit of chance to get settled in from the summer. And then it's a good way to kick off that time of year. You get to celebrate professional wrestling for an entire weekend here in the capital region. We're going to be back at the Desmond Hotel this year, which is an absolutely beautiful place. If you haven't been there before, good stuff. And we're going to have the Hall of Fame class is going to be announced May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So we're really looking forward to that. I have not seen anything yet, so don't ask me if I know who's on the list this year. That's all being determined. That's, as I like to say, that's above my pay grade.
Well, we all know it's going to be me. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And, we're also planning on having a killer show again this year. No details coming yet. Those are coming soon. I don't know who's doing what. I don't know what the matches are, who's been booked. So don't ask me. And also, I do not do the booking. So for anybody listening, don't send any emails because I don't book the show.
But I will say this much: coming up there, like we did, like me and the former co-host of mine, I will not mention his name on air, but you know exactly who I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
I had a freaking blast.
Oh no, they're always a great weekend. If anybody's ever had the chance to go, they're a lot of fun. You get to meet some of the legends of the business. I mean, what was it last year? We had guys like Ted DiBiase was there. Dave LaGreca was there, for crying out loud. I had the chance to meet Dave LaGreca. Funny story about him, and this really blew my mind. I don't know if he watches the show or not, but I wasn't able to do a lot of this stuff with the Hall of Fame this last year because it was my first season announcing for the Tri-City Valley Cats, and I had a weekend stint of games that I had to be at, and I couldn't be at the Hall of Fame, unfortunately. But I did get to go to the meet and greet for a little bit before one of my games, and I walked by, and LaGreca just called me out, and I just kind of looked over, and we chatted for a second, and he said such kind words to me that I never expected. And it really blew my mind. But it was just a really cool experience for me to hear that from somebody like Dave, to hear those kind words from somebody like Dave LaGreca.
And I can actually piggyback on that one because I've also known Dave on and off for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing was, when I went up, first of all, getting to the MVP arena was so easy to get to. And I parked in the parking lot that's I'm trying to think the best way I can describe it for people who are watching. If you walk out of the MVP arena, you make a left. And then you make that first left at the stop sign.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah, up that hill. That's where we park. That's where literally I parked the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because also it's very cheap. It's only, I think, $10 to park. You just have to make sure that you leave, that you don't turn around and leave when all of a sudden, leave and make sure that the garage is still open.
Right.
Because I think it was last year's Hall of Fame. The event was done. I was walking back with Dave, Violetta, Greg Gagne, which still blows my mind. And all of a sudden I'm walking up and I see the doors are closed. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yep.
So, but no, going to my story with Dave from that weekend.
Sure.
I remember, and that mind you, I wasn't doing the podcast. I wasn't planning on doing the podcast that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, you know what? I've done enough shows. I'm like, I want to enjoy this weekend as a fan. And Dave, who I still say is the Howard Stern of pro wrestling talk, turns around to me. He goes, "Are you doing your show up here?" I'm like, in my head, I'm like, Dave knows about this little show? To the point, that blew me away, first of all. That the guy who runs the biggest wrestling radio show, not podcasts, because I know that's always a thing with him, knows of this little show.
It's just really weird how that works in this business sometimes. And I love it, though. I absolutely love it.
What's weird is also people have said that they think with the amount of hard work I'm putting into this show, that I'm going to become the next less crazy LaGreca.
You never know, man. Anything is possible. Anything is possible with enough hard work, dedication. If you study and do your homework, lift your weights, say your prayers, take your vitamins, where have I heard that before? You can accomplish anything.
Well, honestly, I look at it this way. If the opportunity does come in October, I'll put it as probably above the opportunity I have doing the show this weekend, live from Massachusetts, and doing the show WrestleMania weekend. That, to me, doing the show that weekend from the Hall of Fame would just be the top of the top.
That's awesome, bro. I got to be honest with you, and I got to tell you, I'm very proud of you from where this show started to where it is now, man. Congratulations to you and everybody who's worked on it. I know Ryan was with you for a while. Congratulations to him. All the guest hosts you've had on, just fantastic work, man. I'm very proud of you.
Oh, and I appreciate that a lot. And folks, I will say this right now. Mike kind of touched on this before, but if you get the opportunity to come up in October for the Hall of Fame weekend, definitely do it.
Please do.
Yes, granted, you can do what I do and go stay at the Howard Johnson. That's about 10 minutes away, which actually is not a bad hotel. I have to say that much.
I've never been there. I don't know. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it's not a bad hotel, but just to be up there, you're amongst wrestling fans, and I will say this much, because I've been to enough shows now in upstate New York, I can say this: the fans in upstate New York are a lot less rowdy than the fans down in New Jersey.
That's not surprising to me at all. I'm not going to lie.
Because I've noticed this going to Immortal. I've noticed this going to Dynasty. You don't fear that, fans are going to start jumping the guardrail like you do in New Jersey.
I've only called 2 events in Jersey.
Really?
Yeah, 2 events. A promotion that no longer exists that I will not mention the name of. And actually neither one of them exists anymore. Oh my God, am I bad luck? I think I might be. I don't know. Now I'm scared. But anyway, yes, no, I've only called 2 shows in New Jersey. Oddly enough, both of them at the Monster Factory.
I will say this much. That's one place I have not been to yet. I'm hoping to get there at some point.
Love that place. Love that place.
But the funny thing is, and I tell this to people a lot, I would rather take the 3.5-hour car ride and go to either Empire Live or St. Johnsville or wherever either. And I know the issues with those 2 companies, so I'm leaving them separate right now. But to just go up there, because it feels more of a family up there. And when you I become friendly with a lot of the fans from up there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them now have become, I would say, close friends, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about professional wrestling in this part of New York. When you get up, around Albany, Utica, even I would even say from Albany out to Syracuse, because, there's shows that run in between there. I mean, everybody's a family. You see, as it is with independent wrestling, you see a lot of the same faces no matter where you go. But it's like, even if you do see them at one show at one company, another show at another company, I mean, there have been times when I haven't done a show for months and I'll show up at, whatever show I'm doing. And it's like, I never left. It was, just everybody is just awesome. It's very close. And I love it. That's part of what I love about calling indie wrestling, is just the fact that everybody's close. Everybody's friends for the most part. But also, you get to meet all these different characters from these different ways of life. And we're all there for one reason. And that's, to have fun.
And I agree with you 100%. And that's the thing I've noticed. Not only are they there to have fun, but they're also very supportive.
Oh, yeah.
They, for the longest time, I noticed it a lot going to shows in Jersey. A lot of times, they were supportive, but it was supportive for that moment. Where a lot of the shows I go to now, I have people who come up to me, and like I said, a lot of them have become friends of mine, and they'll look at me, they'll say the same thing like you said. They're like, holy crap, where's the rest of you?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh yeah, the weight loss. And they'll be like, oh, I'm impressed with the podcast and everything. And I don't think it's hit me yet, because I still look at it as I'm no different than any other fan who goes to a show. I'm no different than any other person there. But then when I get people who come up to me, they're like, oh, I listened to your podcast and, it's great. I'm like, I'm kind of looking at them like, you're talking about the podcast that I started. I'm like, it hasn't registered with me yet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been there before, and it was, it's one of those things where, and I experienced this too. Like, people tell me, oh, you did such a great job. You did such a good job. And, you sound like you should be here. You should be at the UFC or another company with 3 letters or whatever. And it's like, dude, I just say names. That's it. I don't, but a lot of people don't look at the importance of, what a lot of the folks backstage at a show do, because every person plays a role. not just the men and women that are in the ring. And, those guys work extremely hard. I give those guys and girls, nothing but the utmost credit. But there's an entire team that works backstage, from the producers, the match producers, the guy that rings the bell, security, the folks that take tickets or sell potato chips or whatever. Everybody plays a role, and that's important, and you can't forget that.
No, and I've noticed that a lot, and I've always said those are the unsung heroes.
That's true. That is very true.
Though, like I'll throw another one out there: the guys who take the photos ringside,
photographers, videographers, commentators, ring announcers, folks that do backstage interview. Everybody plays a role, and a lot of guys, a lot of the wrestlers have been sharing the memes of, oh, thank everybody, and that's true. You should thank everybody.
And that's one thing I've been striving with this show is I want to, yes, granted, I want to have the wrestlers on absolutely to promote the stuff. But if I have the opportunity to have the ring announcer on, the backstage interviewer on, the photographers on, I kind of want to, because I know the 9,000 wrestling podcasts that are out there, or everybody's going to sit there and go, oh, I want to take this wrestler and have them on. I'm like, no, give me the photographer. Give me the guy who does the camera work. Give me the backstage interviewer. And then people look at me and go, but why? They're not big names. I go, but they're part of the show. I mean, granted, I had, out at the last Immortal show, I had the opportunity to be one of the camera operators. And I give them a lot of credit.
Yep. Working camera for professional wrestling is different from anything else you've ever done if you've held a camera. I guarantee it.
I mean, the fact that I almost got taken out in 2 of the matches. Like, I'll tell the story. I've told the story a couple of times. I'll tell it again. There was a match between Pat Sawyer and I was about to say Man Fulton, but Richie. Man Richie was his name. I forgot.
I thought you were going to say Man Mountain Rock, but that's from a different era of professional wrestling. If you know who I'm talking about, you get 5 points.
That's before my time.
Yeah. That's why I said if you know who I'm talking about, you get 5 points.
But they're on the outside. Now I was on, I guess it's called the B side of the ring. I didn't realize there was different names for the sides of the ring. I looked at it as there's one side, there's the other side.
A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, apparently I was on the B side, and they're both coming at, they're at, what must have happened was my foot got caught on the mat. So I went to almost go backwards, and Pat comes up and grabs me, and he kind of goes, he looks at me and goes, I got you, don't worry about it. And I hear the guys on the headset go, great, we're only 2 matches in, we almost lost a camera operator.
Truth be told, this has never happened to me, and I hope to God it never does. One of my biggest fears is when I get into the ring or get into the cage that I'm going to trip and go face first right into the mat in front of the entire crowd.
Oh, I've done that already. I did that one time. There's a company down in Jersey called Titan Championship Wrestling. And they had me for one of their shows. They had me go into the ring because the whole premise of it was we were doing a kickoff show for them. And they had to switch out one of the matches. So I said, how cool would it be to have me announce the winner of the poll of who's going to face the guy, make it on the podcast. So the promoter looks at me, he goes, I'll do you one better. He goes, we'll have you do it in the ring. I'm like, excuse me, huh? Come again? Now, mind you, they didn't tell me this beforehand. I got to the place, they're like, oh yeah, you're and David Adams, fellow ring announcer, looks at me, he goes, you're penciled in for the main event of the first half. I'm like, I'm doing what? And they have, apparently there's 2 different types of rings that Titan has. They have a low standing ring and a high standing ring. Depends on how the height of the building.
Right.
This one was the high standing ring. So I'm trying to be this tough guy. I figured, okay, there's not that much difference between the bottom rope and the middle rope. I can go through the middle rope, not a problem.
How'd that work out for you?
Let's say I took a bump and I realized afterwards that I should have just gone through the bottom rope. because apparently I figured in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not that short. I can go in between. Nope. I get into the ring, and mind you, I didn't have anything in front of me. David looks at me and goes, here, here's the mic. I'm like, oh, I'm getting a live mic right now. And the first thing that came to my mind was, and this is going to sound weird, but having, you watch, you in the stand, Shane, like all the ring announcers who we've had on the show, watch me going, okay, John, don't screw this up. And
you got this, buddy.
There, and unfortunately, I don't think it ever made it to video for some reason, but I sit there and I have the mic in my hand and I'm looking right at the entrance and I announce it with such cadence. I'm like, holy crap, that felt natural for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part was getting out of the ring because it was Ben Castle versus PJ Savage. Those are for anybody who now they're coming in full gimmick, full thing, and I'm sitting there going, yep, this is. So I go into the corner and David looks at me. He goes, "You're enjoying yourself right now." I go, "Absolutely." I'm like, I'm having so much fun right now.
Mm-hmm.
Go to get out of the ring. Now this time I remember to go through the bottom rope. This time. And also I look down and I figured, okay, I do the usual plop the butt on the edge. And yeah, again, tall ring. I'm only 5'5".
Right.
You can kind of see where this is going.
I'm not much taller than you are, believe it or not.
And I'm sitting there, I'm going, so David comes up the other side. He goes, "What's wrong?" I go, "Can't get down. Can't get down." Like also I had one of those moments where it was like, I didn't know. He goes, "Grab my shoulder." And mind you, at that point, just going back to July of last year. So I was a little heavier at the time.
Right.
I think I had just gotten past the 300-pound mark at that part. I go, "You sure?" And mind you, David Adams is not a big guy. He's a toothpick, to put it nicely.
I've never met David Adams formally.
But I put him on the Mount Rushmore of ring announcers. Which
okay.
I'll get to that one in a second.
Sure.
And he goes, "Grab my shoulder." I go, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Grab my shoulder." Grab his shoulder. I go to hop down. I'm like, why are my feet killing me right now? I'm like, oh yeah, that's why, because I just dropped 290 pounds on my feet. So I'm like, yeah, next time I do this, I'm going to do this the right way.
That's why they have stairs.
Yeah, I realized afterwards the stairs are on the other side of the ring.
Ring awareness, sir. Even ring announcers need to have it.
I learned my lesson very quickly that day.
Live and learn. You live and learn.
Well, I've been doing that for the last almost 31 years.
There you go.
But last two questions I got it.
Yes.
You.
Sorry.
This one's going to be an interesting one, but
sure.
We always talk about Mount Rushmores in wrestling.
Yes.
And I actually asked Shane this when he did a Facebook Live a couple of months ago. I'm going to ask you the same question.
Sure.
Who is your Mount Rushmore of indie ring announcers?
Indie ring announcers. Wow, you're going to put me on the spot like this. Well, the first person is Rich Palladino, no question. No, just if Derek Jeter was a unanimous decision for the Hall of Fame, for the Baseball Hall of Fame, Rich Palladino is my unanimous decision for my Mount Rushmore of independent wrestling announcers. See, I hate these Mount Rushmore questions because there's so many great voices in indie wrestling. I can't really pigeonhole just four. God, why you had to put me on the spot like this?
Mike, it wouldn't be running this podcast if I didn't.
True. No, Rich Palladino is definitely up there. Shane Fair is up there for me. Shane's a great guy. He's got a great look. I love what he does in the ring. And one thing that I love about Shane, funny story in this, every time I see it, I pop. When Shane was in the Battle Royal, but he was still announcing wrestlers while he was getting his butt kicked. That was the greatest thing I have ever seen. Shane is definitely on my Mount Rushmore. I would say Dave Adams is up there too. Dave does a lot of great work. I really love watching Dave when he does his work with Hog, and he's just done really anything and everything. And I love watching Dave work. Oh man, see, I hate these Mount Rushmore questions. Um, Indie wrestling ring announcers. My God, there's so many. I can't, dude. Oh man, I can't. I can't. I really can't. You know what? Everybody. My last choice is everybody who picks up a microphone and gets in the ring and announces the guys and girls coming in to wrestle. You all are on my Mount Rushmore because y'all do amazing work. And anybody that's ever done ring announcing, that it's may seem easy, but it's not. But I give credit to every single man, man, woman. I've even seen a couple kids ring announce. So anybody that picks up a microphone and gets in the ring and announces, I give them much credit.
Mike, one thing with us, I mean, I know it's been a while since you've been on with us, but the one thing with us is I've always done it where I always have like those one or two questions that whoever we have on will sit there and go, we'll kind of sit there and go, shit, that's a good question, or shit, you stumped me.
Well, it is a very good question. It's just me. I hate limiting it because there's so much great talent out there, founded, unfounded. There are folks that I'm seeing, when I'm scrolling social media and I see these young ring announcers that are coming out and they're doing great stuff and they're doing amazing stuff, not just ring announcing, but, they're doing the commentary and they're doing this, that, and the other. Sam Laterna is one that I've had the pleasure of working with a couple of times. She is phenomenal. If you're not familiar with Sam Laterna, you need to watch a lot of her work, especially if you are an aspiring broadcaster in the world of professional wrestling. Sam is a great person to learn from. I mean, you have guys even out in Memphis. My friend Terrence Ward, he announces for Memphis Championship Wrestling. He's a fantastic announcer. He does a lot of work with those guys out there. My buddy Christian Schmidt down in Texas, he announced professional wrestling back in the day. Now he does boxing, mixed martial arts. I mean, there's so many great talent out there that's tapped and untapped, and it's really hard for me to just pick four. It is. It really is for me.
Hold on. And I get that. I think another name to mention, I know you said before, it's kind of everybody, but I think another name to kind of pinpoint there, and he's going to laugh that I'm actually putting him over right now, but Ryan Peterson.
Yes, definitely Ryan. Definitely Ryan. And I apologize. I didn't mention his name earlier, but Ryan.
Oh, no. I say Ryan for one reason. I know, we pick on each other a lot, but with him, it doesn't matter if it's Invictus, whatever company he's with, or with the MMA stuff that he does.
Mm-hmm. Reality fighting.
Reality fighting, yes. He makes it feel like a big time fight.
And that's the job of the ring announcer. I had a mentor of mine. He explained it like going to a restaurant. Okay, the ring announcer is the appetizer. The match is the entree. I mean, and depending on who you are, you may fill up on the appetizer and then you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to watch this match. But because I know that's me, I fill up on appetizers. It's not good. But the ring announcer's job, you don't just introduce, the fighters or the wrestlers or, the players to the crowd. You're getting the audience ready for what they're about to see. One of the great analogy, well, not really analogies, but if you've ever seen, oh my goodness, what is Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger?
Yep.
When they're doing the jousting and you have the two guys that come out and they're introducing their jousters and they're getting the crowd into it and they're introducing, the good guy and the bad guy. That is a perfect analogy of a ring announcer. You're getting the crowd prepared for what they're about to watch. So if you're a ring announcer, you have to bring that energy from start to finish. And one of the hardest things for a ring announcer to do is to maintain that energy. You have to be able to read the crowd. You have to be able to say to yourself, all right, I'm losing the crowd. What can I do to help pump people up? And the same thing happens when I announce for the Albany Firewolves of the National Lacrosse League. I work with a game day producer. So if you ever see me put up the videos where I've got the headset on with the little thing that flips down the microphone, I have a producer in my ear telling me, okay, go ahead, say this. Let's do this read. Let's do this. Perfect example. This last weekend, we played the Rochester Nighthawks. We were losing 8-2 midway through the first quarter of a 4-quarter game. In lacrosse, 8 goals is not easy to score. But for the good remainder of the game, up until midway through the fourth quarter, we were losing an entire arena full of people, and it's up to me to keep that energy up, to keep them interested in what's going on. The team eventually came back and we ended up losing by 1. It was a great game, but one of the hardest parts about being a ring announcer is keeping the energy up in the room, because if the energy's not there and you start to lose your energy, it's game over. You have to, continuously keep smiling even though you don't want to. You know what I mean?
I get that. I get that incredibly. Mike, I do appreciate you coming on with us tonight. Hopefully we can have you on again. Hopefully it's not another 3 years before we have you on again.
I'll probably be 75 before I come on again. So let's book it. I'll book it for 30 years out. Plenty of time to plan. So I think we'll be good.
What? So it'll be, Hall of Fame, 2055.
Let's book it. 2055. I'm there.
But no, but also, definitely, the door's always open for you to come back.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on. One quick thing before I go. For those of you MMA fans going on out there, do not forget next weekend, April 5th, Cage Wars is going to be at Schenectady, the Rivers Casino and Resort in Schenectady, not far from where I live now. 16 fights. We got 16 mixed martial arts fights on the card so far. We got a killer main event. Phaedra Knight, who is a multi-sport athlete, I believe she is in the Rugby Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. She's taking on Kira Lee, who is an outstanding fighter. That's already got fight in the night implications for me. So it's going to be Rivers Casino and Resort, Cage Wars 65. Tickets are still on sale. They are going to sell out. Every single show that I have called with Cage Wars has sold out. So if you have the chance to get tickets, get tickets. You can get them at cagewarsmma.com/tickets, or you can go to Cage Wars MMA, follow us on social media, and you can follow the links from there. If you can't make it, you can find us on stimulus.com. Go to the website. You'll enter in your email address. It's completely free. You have to register. Make sure you register for the code, and you'll get an access code, and you get Cage Wars 65 absolutely free. 16 fights, a number of championship fights, and it's always a great card. So take advantage. Plus, this guy is going to be center cage. So another reason to order the fights.
Just to say one thing, you brought up Cage Wars. I agree. I've been able to go to one Cage Wars, which was, there was the one in Philly.
Oh wait, that was the one. That must have been the one Ryan called. Yep, yeah, I remember I had a Firewolves game that night and I couldn't make it down, unfortunately.
And I remember Ryan looked at me and goes, "You ever been to him?" He approached me about going to the show. I said, "I'm like to go to MMA. Why not?" Now the one thing, whenever I go to a show with Ryan, I always let him do him, so to speak, because
right,
he's working. Remember, he's talking to the promoter, and now I'm sitting all in the other side of the room, just minding my own business. And Ryan looks at me. He does the how every parent does it to their child. I'm like, uh-oh, what did I do? He goes, "You want to take a step in the octagon?" I'm like, "Excuse me, come again?" I step foot in there, and I will say this much right now: I've stepped foot in a wrestling ring and an octagon. I would not want to take a bump in an octagon.
No, not the same. No, just no.
There's no gift.
No, not at all. Octagon is built very similar to a boxing ring. If you've ever been in a boxing ring, then you understand there's very little give in the floor for a boxing ring. No, but I love mixed martial arts. I love it. I watch it every time it's on. Of course, I'm watching the ring announcers. I'm listening to Bruce Buffer. I'm listening to Michael C. Williams at Bellator, or whoever's calling the event. And I'm evaluating, obviously, and I'm taking mental notes. But I love watching MMA. I love pro wrestling. I love combat sports. I mean, MMA, boxing, pro wrestling, kickboxing, Muay Thai. I mean, it's just, I love it. I just love all of it.
Basically, everything you have to be very athletic, which I'm not.
No, I'm not very athletic either. Believe it or not, don't believe what you see on Instagram. What do they say? Social media lies to you. I'm really not as athletic as everybody thinks.
I see the gym pictures you take.
It doesn't mean I'm athletic.
Well, neither am I, but I still take sort of decent pictures.
That's true.
Depends on how you position the camera in front of you.
Exactly. Women have makeup, men have lighting. That was a joke that one of my weightlifting friends at the gym always tells me, So, and I do not mean that in a negative connotation at all.
All right. But Mike, again, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said before, the door's always open. And obviously, as you get closer to the big weekend in October, we'll definitely have, a lot more stuff. You guys will have a lot more stuff coming out about it. And I know you're one of the guys behind the scenes with the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this before, and I'll say this again. Damn well, as soon as you guys make announcements, damn well it's going to be talked about on this podcast.
Of course. And we're glad it is, because that's how it should be. And it should be talked about on everybody's podcast, too. Just saying.
But you know what's funny? With me, I've noticed I kind of take the approach of, if it helps get you guys some attention, why the hell not?
Exactly.
But again, Mike, I appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, what else do you have coming up that you like to promote, and where can the fans connect with you on social media?
Oh, man, I have quite a few things coming up. This weekend, I actually have 2 basketball games and a lacrosse game on Saturday. So that's more traditional sports. I mentioned Cage Wars coming up April 5th. On May 4th, I will be making my Mid-Hudson Civic Center debut with Dead Serious MMA. I'm going to be taking the mic for my good friend Steve Peacock. He normally works with those guys. Unfortunately, I'm filling in for him. He can't make it that night, so I'm going to be filling in for him. He's a fantastic voice down in New Jersey, by the way. He does a lot of MMA, boxing. May 4th, I have that going on. June 1st, I have an event down in Newburgh with Mech Promotions. It's going to be Danger Zone Combat. That's going to be a great night of mixed martial arts down in Newburgh at the Newburgh Armory. In between there, I'm going to be doing some boxing here in the local Albany area. USA Boxing has a couple of events. March 30th, which is a Saturday. I will be here in Albany doing some youth boxing with USA Boxing and Coach Jarek Jones, who is a fantastic human being. And I love Coach Jarek. If anybody in Albany, if you're in the boxing scene, you know Coach Jarek and you love Coach Jarek. If you don't love Coach Jarek or he doesn't like you, then there's something wrong with you. That's the kind of person he is. But between that, baseball season is going to be coming up soon. I'll be back with the Tri-City Valley Cats this summer, and I can't wait for that. I love baseball. That's probably my favorite sport to call, just because I'm a huge baseball fan. So, but my calendar is open. I know I've taken a bit of a break from ring announcing and cage announcing, and I'm still kind of on that break, but I'm slowly getting back to where I want to be. So I will be coming out probably very soon with some open dates. So if anybody has MMA or boxing or whatever, I'm here. You can find me on social media at Mike A. Falvo across everything. Instagram, X, or Twitter, whatever they're calling it this week. Facebook. I'm probably friends with most of the folks that watch your show anyway. But still, you can find me at Mike A. Falvo.
Mike, I agree with you 100%. Baseball is back. Actually, opening day is next Thursday, actually.
Mm-hmm. San Diego and Los Angeles and Seoul last night. They're actually going to be playing again here at 3 a.m. I will not be awake for that.
I look at it as it's a nice birthday present to me.
Yep. When is your birthday anyway? Is it coming up soon? Is it really?
Next Thursday.
And I didn't get you anything. God, I'm such a scumbag. I didn't get you anything.
Okay, I'll be honest. Allowing me to do the podcast from the Hall of Fame will be perfect enough.
I'll wrap it up in a bow. I'll put a nice little card in there for you too.
Okay, that works. I'll probably see you before then, anyways.
I'm sure you will. But
guys, for Mike Falvo, I'm John. It's been Around the Ropes, YouTube exclusive. Catch you guys next time.